Go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1 of what do we call the show, John
I don't
Dowie?
know.
Okay, so I guess
It's the Drew and
I
John
guess it's
show right now.
the Drew and John show. We could call it Farmer to Farmer, but
I was thinking,
good
oh shit.
and
Go
but
ahead.
I don't, I never became friends with the gentleman. He was going to do the show, the original guy who had the show Farmer to Farmer, so
Hmm.
he recently passed away of cancer,
Oh,
unfortunately. So, um in living memory of him, even though I can't remember his name. What a piece of shit I am. But like I said, we weren't. He liked my show, and he said he liked my show, and he said it'd be awesome to come on as a guest.
hmm.
And I was like, that's cool because it was like his show is awesome. Like I don't. Do you remember that show, Farmer to Farmer?
Um, no, I don't remember.
Do you-
I don't remember a lot of things though.
He ma- yeah, he mainly talked to like non microgreen
Hmm.
farmers. I forgot to hit record, John.
I'm gonna start over.
So I'm recording now. So, but yeah, welcome to episode 1. We recorded episode 0. We're probably not going to release it. I might put it out on Patreon for the Sample Hours Patreon.
It's
But
a good idea.
so John Dowie and I, I guess the whole root of this show is John and I talked back before I was a microgreens farmer, and we did a couple episodes together, a couple podcasts. And I actually think I released it. No, I think it was 2 episodes, but I thought I released it as 2 episodes because I think we had like something happened.
That's what
and
it
we got
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we might have released it as one show, but it was a big long show. And but I pretty much at the time when I was starting, I was just going to be a lettuce farmer, and then I was going to also do microgreens. But then, when you're living in the middle of a city with like that's the number one test market for restaurants, and you have a 15th of an acre, microgreens per square footage is a way better way to go. So over the past 5 years, John and I have talked off and on. It'll just usually be some random 2 hour bitch fest that sometimes it would be like a year, sometimes it'd be like a month. But then through COVID and everything, we just decided, it's a good idea to do content. Everybody's trying to put out shows about, I don't know. It's to us, we don't always feel like the shows are necessarily um
Realistic.
I don't, yeah, I don't think they're necessarily realistic. I think they're all kind of flowers and roses, and I think that there's plenty of people. My buddy just sent me some TikTok thing. The ultimate side hustle:
Hmm.
get these microgreens going. And all of his
Yeah.
microgreens look like shit,
Yep.
and it's just like that's just what we need. We need some asshole who doesn't know what he's doing, trying to get popular on TikTok.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I do microgreens, and I'm not trying to sound like a jerk. But I think that, to be able, my local mentor, Joseph Swain, told me anybody can get started in microgreens, but to grind away week in and week out and make it for more than a year, that that is hard to see. You don't see that often. People talk about how much money you can make. Oh, on the side, make $1,500. That's a lot of work to make $1,500 a week. I do it. John does it. John's been doing this for how many years?
7 this year.
7 years.
Yep.
And I've been doing it. This is my 5th year.
Yep.
Um, so I mean, full time. Let's see. I started the farm in 2016, but it was like a part-time thing, and I failed miserably midway through the season because I couldn't do it week in, week out with a full-time
Yeah.
job on my own. So then I hired Rich, and then Rich would plant. I would do the sales and deliveries, and then Rich and I parted ways, and now I have Tim that takes his place. And honestly, man, it is. I have a lot of advantages that you don't have, but you know what? We're going to get into that in the show.
Yeah. We
So
both have. Yeah, we both have a different situation, which is going to be. I think the advantage of this show is going to be we have a lot of similarities, but we also have a different approach and a different business model. Really, like because I lease a room that is
yeah,
a high overhead situation for me, and then you have you're doing it at your house, right? I
yeah, I
think
do it at
right,
a
yeah,
house in the hood
in the
that
hood,
is a low mortgage.
yeah,
But I mean, like if I was, and
yeah,
here's the thing too, if I was what would I do? I mean, like, look, everybody wants to pretend like they like urban farming, but try and do urban farming in an area where the houses are 200,
Yeah.
$300,000. Um, and that's an expensive neighborhood. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they will call the city on you immediately.
Hmm.
So I don't. Um, so yeah, I think that we have the unique experience. I think that people don't understand necessarily what to do with waste
Yep.
responsibly. We both grow in soil.
Hmm.
I mean, you do your own mix. I mean, even the way we grow is a little bit different. Um, but so yeah, so let's get into this show. So this is kind of going to be our output each week. John and I are going to talk about what's going on our farms, maybe what we're struggling with, um, what our goals are, where we're trying to go, what direction we're trying to do. Um, so we have an outline that I'm looking for. I had the outline. I had the outline pulled
Well, I
up
could
before we
kind
started the show.
of.
Oh, I found it
Oh,
again.
okay.
Okay.
As I kind of
Yeah,
like throw questions at you if you can't find it. I
yeah,
can
yeah. No, you could
host. You want me to
definitely. I
host?
mean, so yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think so. Segment one, farm and business
Yeah,
updates.
man. They're both kind of that, I think. But like, I just want to kind of keep the segments real simple at the beginning here, and then we can expand as we go on with the show, right? So,
Yeah,
um, at some point we might start taking questions from folks on the audience, from the show
that'd be
before, that
awesome.
kind of thing. That might be good. But yeah, I think we should maybe lead off with your. I mean, I have you first on the list because
Yeah.
I felt like that was proper etiquette.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I don't know. I just wrote it, so I'm like, I can't write my own name first. That would be weird and narcissistic. So, yeah, I mean, I think,
I forgot we don't have my beef on here. So,
yeah, we were going to talk about that too. That's right. We touched on a lot of the
yeah.
stuff in episode 0 that won't be released to the public
We
because,
did, and I think I deleted it because I was like, oh, we covered that in the first show. So I
yeah,
guess the first thing is
wow, I can see you making live updates. That's wild.
yeah. So I
The
think the
technology,
first thing
man.
that we should talk about is what we did. So with the pandemic, how it affected our
Yeah.
business, and the last time that kind of took over episode 0 because one thing that I thought was really interesting was I was actually doing really well. So I was and I think you talked about this too, and I'll let you get into it. But I was on set to do 2020 was going to be my best year ever. Um, it was slated I was going to do over six figures
Hmm.
in revenue,
Yep.
and I came close the year before. I was doing really well, and then one press conference ended everything.
Yep.
And at the time, I was in a really cool options trading group. For this, my buddy Carl, I'm gonna have on the show, he just got banned from Twitter because if you're a black man, you're not allowed to have certain opinions on Twitter that don't go with the norm. And so shout out to Options Gang Carl, where he's at the civil right. So Carl, and everyone, I mean, it was really good. And I was like one of the few white dudes in there. And all these guys were on top of their stuff with like stuff. And they were looking at like market projections and everything. They're like, wow, it's crazy how small farms are really taking off. And I'm like, dude, I don't, one of the things that I saw was my local mentor, Joseph Swain, and kind of like the reason why I could get involved with restaurants was I think he was really tired of dealing with them. Like he was already at the two biggest and most established farmers markets, and I mean he's on like year 12
Mm.
at this point, so he was on like year 8 at the time, and he was really trying to get away from it. I think he was just getting burned out. He didn't like dealing with chefs. He was like a traditional farmer. I mean, you are from the restaurant industry. I'm a salesman. I mean, I'm a telecom guy originally. So for us, we're kind of like this hybrid farmer, and I think we're a tradition in the traditional sense, what people expect the urban farmer to be.
Yeah.
Um, so I was able to go in and pick up all these restaurants, and I had a non-compete. If Swain was dealing with them, I would go there, and then if it was a place I knew he was selling to, I would say, "Hey, are you still selling here?" And he would say, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, they're trying to. Somebody there is there. I'm giving you a heads up." And so him and I, he still helps me out quite a bit. Um, but it was like I was just buying soil from him initially, and then I slowly went to the point. He was like, "Hey, you need to start buying your own pallets." So he has a commercial space, but he has a bigger space than you. Like it has a storefront, and he does mushrooms too. And he'd been trying to get like permits from the city, and now he just got his grocery store certification. So now he's selling like local meat. He's selling everything, and it's really cool to see because when the pandemic was first there, him and I were talking like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. He was selling to the local grocery store that could buy, so it was pretty much like whatever Swain's selling, I'm not going to sell. Like it's a big enough city. We don't need to compete. I'm not interested in competing. My product looks different than his, much like how my product looks different than yours. And so I fell off a truck. Like when I fell off a cliff once this happened. So what had happened is all my restaurants closed. I was thinking, well, you know what? They'll at least send me the money that I owed them. Well, they didn't because they didn't have any money coming in. I think at least 6 of their businesses I sold to closed.
Wow.
Um, and they owed me money at the time. And so that sucked. And then, thankfully, I was able to get like the paycheck protection money, and I was able to get self-employment. Like I kind of, because I'm a single member LLC, I qualified for both. And John will get into it. Our states are very different, so I'm not sure. It was kind of different, but
Yeah, it
um,
definitely was. Yeah, a little bit.
so I have connections to small grocery stores in Toledo, and so Toledo is about 2.5 hours north of here. And I was just like, you know what, I got this product. I wasn't having any money. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't care what anybody says. I'm essential no matter what. They can find me, whatever. I'm not closing my doors. I don't have anybody that's going to bail me out. So I drove back and forth Toledo a whole bunch. And so I pretty much went to like a hood area, like pretty much the last market where you'd expect people to buy microgreens. And I was in there in a pandemic trying to give people samples, and they were setting record numbers at the store. Um, and so while I'm in there, the beef, I noticed that the price of skirt steak, my buddy Greg said to me, hey, the price of skirt steak is going up. It went up $3 a pound overnight. And I was like, huh. Well, I'm guessing this is probably a good time to try to get into, grass-fed beef or talk to some people I knew from the farmers market that were involved. So shout out to Hidden Acres Farm and my buddy Zach and his wife Kristen. I have a cow there now, so I just leased some space, and him and I went to an auction, and I bought my first cow, and I finished it out on pasture. And so I got in the grass-fed beef business because I was just like, well, like I'm not sure what's going on with meat. So worst case scenario, I have my own source of beef. And so, fast forward to today, um, the beef business has definitely been put on the back burner, but I need to really update the website because I feel like beef is kind of like my gateway drug into home sales. So selling to direct to consumers, because I still think I need to figure out a way to get that into just straight to the distributor in case something crazy happens, because it just based on the way things are looking these days, it doesn't really seem like the people in power really want people to go back to living their lives and enjoying them.
Yeah.
And whoever controls the food controls the masses. So if we can control our own food sources, I mean, it's definitely the way to go. Um, so the biggest plan is I already have sales copy. I need to get some art done for the website. So my good buddy Greg Huntermark's going to come down. We're going to get some art, which is just photography done. I have restaurants that sent me photos. So it's basically like, I sell to restaurants that people have heard of, but people have not heard of me. And that was kind of by design. I didn't originally want to sell straight to consumer. I thought it'd be annoying. So that is one method I'm doing for sales. So the other thing I need to do is, we had talked in episode 0 of the picking up more restaurants. One thing I think I decided that I no longer want to reach out to new restaurants or do cold calling. I think it's a way smarter idea to sell to distributors. So most distributors in my area are buying shit from New York, and then it dies in like a few days, and people get this BS from New York. But I can jump right in there and sell my stuff for the same price that restaurants are already buying it for to them. and then there's plenty of room for them to mark it up, since the price that it costs to get it from New York is like double what I'm charging, and it's a superior product. So I just recently picked up a distributor, and they're pretty much at this point just starting out. They're going to be getting, about 10 pounds a week. So that's a pretty good deal for me.
No.
But
What's your price point on? Can I ask?
yeah, absolutely.
So you're selling to them in like an 8-ounce pack, I'm assuming, or something like that.
Yeah, so I switched containers. So one thing I did, so Rich was a big anti-plastic guy. So we would sell everything out of like of the shoe boxes, the Sterilite shoe
Yeah.
boxes now.
I see. I use a reusable for restaurant sales, like a return.
Is it NSF certified?
Maybe.
So yeah, so that was the thing. So it was reusable for restaurants, and
Yeah,
I was doing it.
but to sell,
and
you can't sell to a distributor that way. Obviously, you have to just go with a plastic clamshell, right?
Correct.
Or you could do the cardboard wax thing, but that's not going to be durable enough. You can't. Yeah.
I wish there was a non-plastic solution.
There's not.
Just
I mean,
because
I don't.
there's just not.
Yeah, I've done the research on the bullshit biodegradable plastic, but I think it's a scam. It's like, oh well, we use.
It's totally a scam.
Yeah, it's like it biodegrades in the exact perfect conditions in the exact perfect landfill over the course of 38 years.
I mean, basically,
Like,
you
come
just
on.
say that so people feel better because
Yeah, it's a
everybody's
scam,
so
so-
anti-plastic, and it's
So-
just like we use plastics for so much, and they're
Yeah.
really beneficial.
I mean, well, and you're
like,
not adding plastic to the system. You're
no,
it's a one-for-one
the
trade.
plastic's already there.
Yeah, so-
we might as well use it while we have
so anyway.
it.
So it's interesting you bring it. Let me just interject a little bit. Like,
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
so I have the opposite problem because you're talking about Copra Cressa probably. They're a huge distributor in a lot of Long Island that grows microgreens. I don't know their systems and how they do it, but I know they're like the leader in the industry essentially. Like when you see a new product come to market, most likely they introduced it. So it's interesting because their product here I have to compete with, and they'll like undercut me on stuff. Like, so when I got into the business, I was at $5 an ounce on cilantro, and that was like a good price. And now they've cut down to like 3. So,
So they're what's interesting is I think I'm at 215 ounce on cilantro,
Wow,
and I'm
yeah.
about to bump it up.
yeah,
Just because we finally got as down. I mean, I mean, it's it's a pain to grow cilantro.
Yeah, it sucks.
Like,
Yeah.
I learned, we figured it out through, I mean, talking to you, your old method, and then you and I talked about
yeah, a new method that
a new
that
method,
remains
and I'm still not
unreleased.
doing that. Yeah, and I'm still not doing that one.
Yeah, I can't.
And I
I'm not
talked-
allowed to release it.
No, and I talked to a guy from California, and he told me the same thing. He's more than happy to help me because he saw I was established, but he said, like, I think it's a trade secret.
Yeah, I just respect the guy that told me how to do it. I'm not going to tell everybody. I asked him if I
Yeah,
could do a
like, if
video, and
somebody
he
says
said no.
this is
I'm
my
like,
trade
"All right."
secret, I'll help you.
Yeah.
But like, and one thing was the way Rich had done it. It was working well most of the time, but then it was like summertime. Like I just didn't have cilantro.
Yeah.
And I was just wasting seed
Yep.
and soil.
Yeah, it's a weird seasonal issue. Yeah, it's like it likes cool, but see, I was having a lot of success in the summer, and then I just had a different, we just had a temp change. But anyway, I don't want to have topic. So
No, you're fine.
so your price.
So prices right now, I charge. I mean, so everything is just going to be so I use 64-ounce clamshells, but cilantro's fluffy, and when I first switched to those, so I was doing half a pound in the 1 pound container, or like basically I always do half the weight of cilantro I would do as the full weight of something else. So like now I do 8 ounces in 64-ounce containers.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yep.
And now I do 4 ounces of cilantro in the 64 ounces
wow.
containers.
So we're getting 8.
Because
We get 8 in that.
well, I can get 8 in that, but then the chefs complain.
Oh.
They said it's not fluffy.
Oh, well,
I like
yeah, after
fluffy.
you go through are you doing direct to restaurant that way?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So restaurants and country clubs, and then I put a label on it.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to figure out this year was I had talked. I mean, just basically through the pandemic, it was we have to start doing things differently.
Yeah.
And you can attest to that. So basically, it was the no-brainer thing for me was, well, let's sell to distributors because that's less work for me. Because before I'd wrecked my truck and I was paid a driver, like you and I joke about, I mean, really, we were glorified delivery boys. That's a
Yeah,
majority of how we spent our
I
time.
still am. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still am too. I mean, I'm in the car.
Yeah.
I just now I can do other stuff, and I my neighbor's helping me out.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm still like 30 hours a week in the van.
I'm not so bad, man, but I don't have to drive as far as you,
Yeah.
so it's a lot
Yeah, I'm
trickier.
doing the coast, the New Hampshire seacoast. I'm doing Boston's twice now. So this week we started twice a week to Boston because of this new restaurant that I'll get into. But I did that today, so that was our first time down there today. So, or well, on a
Nice.
Tuesday. Yeah, it's good. But anyway, so picking up a distributor is interesting. I've tried, and we had a distributor like 2 years ago. We picked up in Maine, and it was really exciting for us. It was really a challenge to get what they wanted because we're pretty limited on space, and they wanted massive amounts of salad blend. And of course, like it, they're like, we need 12 pounds or something of salad blend a week or 20. I don't know, it's a shitload. And that was the week all the fucking salad rotted. Right?
Oh man.
So we made it happen, but then they cut it. I don't know. The guy came back with some shit about it was just like the chefs didn't like how it tasted or something. And I'm like, come on. Like I sell to 35 other restaurants. I've never had that, There was something else going on there. It is what it is. But it was like $800 a week, and it was just poof, it was gone. After 4 or 5 weeks of supplying him, and I don't know what happened. Like to this day,
$800 a week would be
yeah,
nice.
to this day, I still
Jeez.
have no idea what happened with that account. You analyze it, try to figure out what you did wrong. I still have no idea. Um, with everything else that we've ever lost, I can usually figure out if it was us or them or what happened. But with that, I still have no idea. But that was the first time I ever really had a distributor on lockdown, and we lost it. But I've had other like really close, exciting leads where like distributors reached out to me, and I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna get this, and you get really excited, and then it falls through. And I got to the point where so I'm in the opposite camp as you. My resolve is now, I'm not doing distributors. I'm just done with it. Like I do, like you mentioned, I'm a restaurant guy anyway. I did 25, I think, years in restaurants, so
Yeah.
that's my world. I go out there and I do it. And I like it. I like going in. I like interacting with the chefs and everything. And I don't really have a lot of problems with payment and stuff. And I'm real lenient with a lot of it. But I also think this is a different market. Like everybody's market is different, and it just
Yeah.
depends on where you are. Like New
I think
Hampshire and Boston, it's like an up and coming, or it's already established. But the chef, like the crop of chefs in this market is like up and coming. It's a lot of guys that are like 30 and they're new to the scene, and they're not the asshole old school chef, that are like throwing pans
yeah.
across the room. They're totally different, and just
So
they're really good to work with.
we already have like an established culture of that.
Yeah.
So keep going. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
they're good to work with, and I don't really like if I had a giant warehouse and a sales force or something, like I'd be all about like, well, let's get like distributors on lockdown. But we have the Boston produce market here, and that's where all the distributors go for their needs. And it's like they all sign contracts with whoever. So we have like this Two Friends farm or whatever in like Massachusetts. Then there's another grower in like Western Mass that's like a private label thing or something. There might be two out there. I think there's one grower in Rhode Island that does this, and then there's Copper Crest in Long Island. And those like five pretty much just always have all the distributors on lockdown. And I just said, all right, fine. Like, I'm not going to bother. You can't, once you get in there and you talk to these big companies, they're like, nah, we already have a contract for the next 3 years. They're just not interested because it's such like an insignificant crop to them because they're making their money off like, here's an entire truckload of tomatoes, right? They're not worried about 5 cases of salad blend. So like,
Yeah.
and they only make like $4 or $6 off a package of salad blend, so they don't really give a shit. So it's almost like I worry about chefs wiping it off their menu because it's a lower importance item. You know what I mean? And it did happen during COVID. Like they were like, well, we're not going to use microgreens on takeout items because why would I?
That
and
That happened to me too.
yeah, we
Yeah.
got our ass kicked because of that. So like, I just gave up on the distributors. I mean, if one comes along, I'm not going to say no, but it's just I decided, okay, fine, I'm not going to focus on that at all. I'm going to look at like sealing up my market up here in New Hampshire, and then I'm going to focus on Boston. The weird part is in between New Hampshire and Boston, there's this huge swath of land where there's a bunch of small towns like I sell to in New Hampshire, and there's probably 30 restaurants that I could like sell to, but I already go to South Boston, and the restaurants in Boston are super busy. So I'm like, instead of getting 5 or 10 more restaurants that buy, you know, $60 worth of greens a week that I have to make all these stops for in between, I'm gonna go for the big ones. You know what I mean? So I already have a bunch of those small ones. So that's what we're aiming for now. But it's interesting. The distribution method's interesting, and I just think it highlights that everybody's market is going to be totally different. Like it seems like it makes a lot of sense for you because you're so much farther away from those producers that I just listed that you're competing with,
Yeah.
right? You're competing with those people
I
in a
talked to
totally
his
different
chef
way.
today.
Good.
I talked to his chef today that he wants to figure out a way to get my stuff for this new location they're going to be doing in Cleveland. And they want like live trays
Yeah.
and I was just talking to him about it. Like I was like, dude, honestly, I mean, like what you want is not hard to grow.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. And I was trying to tell him about another topic we're going to get into is the supply chain issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I was actually looking at seed because they want like beets and lemon balm, and I'm not. I've grown. I grew beets before with Rich. Tim and I haven't grown them together yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not hard.
No.
I think getting the hulls off are annoying. But I think there's probably just a method of growing them.
I don't do it.
Come on.
I don't do it. I don't do it anymore. I just so I noticed just real quick on beets.
Yeah.
The produce company doesn't dehull them.
Yeah.
So I stopped growing them for a long time because I didn't feel right about selling, these hard ass
Something
seed
that
hulls,
the
right?
fucking seed.
Yeah. So I just tell the chefs straight up. I go, look, tell your expo guy there's going to be seed hulls on these things and to watch out for them because they
Yeah.
come from they can't get them without hulls from the produce company. So why would I de-seed them and sell them for the same price? so I was just like, fuck it. I don't have time to sell these for $3 an ounce and de-seed them. It's not worth my time. So I'm either going to not grow them or I'm going to grow them and sell them with the hulls and let them know, right? So I had enough demand for them. So I said, all right, fine. I'll just sell them with the hulls and it is what it is. So we're growing them now. We're also growing the yellow shard or whatever. So we're doing both of those, but I do them the same way I do cilantro now, just so you know. And lemon balm is a cut and come again crop.
Yeah. So, but he wants them live. So it's
son of a bitch.
So, but it'd just be like, well, I could just sell you a tray. And
it's a long grow, lemon balm.
That was kind of my thought, and I wanted to talk, and I was looking at the price of seed, and it was expensive. It's expensive seed. Yeah. How many ounces per tray?
0.2. It's really low.
Okay, so it's like basil.
Yeah,
so it's
less.
Grams.
It's less than basil.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like,
well, that's actually.
I would actually say it's probably half as much seed as basil by weight.
So I use 6 grams.
I don't use grams.
I know you measure in ounces. But I use the imperial method, sir.
We won a war, so we don't have to do that. You know that, right?
Even though we're trying to sell the country out.
Hold on, I'm literally Googling 6 grams to ounces, so I can so I can give you an idea right now. 0.2. Yeah, so I would say
0.2.
Oh, so you don't use much basil at all?
No, and it fills out. I mean, and I sell that as live trays.
I use about 8 to 9 grams of basil for a 10-20 tray.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say, 6 grams was probably about what I use. Maybe 5, I guess, for lemon balm. So, yeah, it's like $140 a pound or something, though, right? Or a half pound. It's wicked expensive.
No, I was looking on. I was trying to find it. I think you can only buy bulk on Kitazawa.
Oh, I'm literally going to the website right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can only find it at 5 pounds. I hadn't looked. It is an expensive seed.
Johnny's had it, I think. I think that's where I got it. Is Johnny's.
Well, Kitazawa has, you could get like 5 pounds, I think, for 100 and
Oh,
something
that's cheap.
bucks. I thought, but I'd have to look
Yeah,
again.
I'll look as we talk. Why not?
Yeah, but that kind of brings me to my next problem is I really need to update the grow room.
Mm-hmm.
So traditionally, I'd been doing this thing to where I had been growing outdoor in the summertime. Like we'd had this greenhouse, and then it was this cheap greenhouse I got off Amazon for like $400 when I still had my corporate America job. And I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing it, but I just knew I was going to be an urban farmer, so I need a greenhouse or something. But you can't really grow in our climates. You can only grow outside for a little bit, especially microgreens. But even then, like it gets too hot, so the only thing I can really grow out there is radish, and the arugula likes it out there. But at certain points of the year, like the mustard's fine out there. Uh, the kale and broccoli are, but if it gets too hot, and then this year, man, I don't know if it was super humid out in New Hampshire, more humid than usual, but this summer,
big time.
Yeah, it was like 100%
Yeah,
humidity.
it was the opposite of last year.
Yeah, and so my stuff just died so much. Like I lost so many crops in the fucking greenhouse. And something, my local mentor Joseph Swain had said to me a long time ago is, man, like you can't control it. So you're trying to get stuff, your goal with microgreens is to get to the finish line as fast as possible. And if you're constantly like having to mess with that, or if the days are changing because it rains too much one week, or just anything like that, it's just not worth it. It's more work too for Tim. So Tim is like, the whole idea of the production side of the farm is to make it be as automated as possible. So with that, expanding the indoor growing. Now that Rich isn't in there, he had so much stuff in the basement, like just stuff I told him to bring, like stuff of value that he could sell. And we were just busy with the farm, so we never sold it. But now that his stuff isn't there, it's like, oh, I could have used this whole basement for growing. So the plan is to switch to LEDs. Initially we hadn't done LEDs because 5 years ago, not a lot of people were using LEDs.
It's expensive.
Like
yeah. It was.
And they were really expensive too. So, if something breaks, like, what are you going to do? So we just got those crappy lights from Lowe's that quit working half the time.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that in episode 0.
We did. Yeah, we talked about that in episode 0.
Don't buy the Lowe's LED or T8s. Buy the Home Depot T8s.
Yeah.
That's what I learned.
But the nice thing is that you can allegedly, you could always just buy new ones and return them and say, oh, they're not working.
I've never done that. That's some... I'm
not saying I've done it.
I got shit. I did. I said it on a YouTube video, and I had somebody like get all pissed off at me. I was like, oh, you just put this back in the box and take it down and return it. And they were like, I can't believe you would ever do that. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck them for selling a shitty product.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Well, maybe they should sell a product that actually works.
Yeah, like what the hell? I mean, I know it's like, oh, it died after a year. I shouldn't be able to return it. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, especially when it says like it's it's supposed to work for like 15 years or something.
So like, get out of here with that shit.
Yeah,
and it kept happening. So that was my other reasoning behind it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and it also, most of the time they'll set off the the fucking shit, the outlets you're supposed to have around water. They're in like
kitchens. Don't get me started on those. Those are the worst things on the planet. I swear to God, somewhere there's some guy that works for Lutron or something, or Leviton, that just like got paid a shitload of money for lobbying Congress to make those things as part of the National Electric Code or something. Whoever does that, right? Because so I had to rewire part of my room, and I used those because those were code, and then I plugged all my lights into those with my power strips and stuff, whatever. Fucking tripped every one of them, and I couldn't keep the lights on. I was like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I have to take these out and people are like, you can't take those out. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I can't run my business without having the lights on. So what am I supposed to do now? So
Yeah.
I just took them all out and I went down to Depot and I just bought the most heavy duty, 20 amp, whatever regular old school outlets I could find, like the high quality ones, and put those in. So I spent like, I don't know, like $30 an outlet basically in the end, because each GFI outlet is like $20, and then I
Yeah.
threw those away and went down and bought $10 outlets. I was like, this is fantastic, and there was like
Well,
20 new ones. I'm like, oh great, I just spent like $400 on outlets. Like this is fun. So yeah.
yeah, I have to spend more money because I don't know, like, I had Rich do a lot of work that I don't think and he would actually try to tell
So
me, and
do you have not enough electricity in the basement?
no, I have enough electricity, but just the way it was wired isn't necessarily.
Safe.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like it was already a bad
It's
situation.
not hard to run
And
wires, to be honest with you. Like,
no, I mean, Rich did it, but he just we should have added another box to it. Like I've had an electrician friend look at it, so thankfully I have some electrician friends that will
you
help.
needed a sub panel. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
it's not hard to
And
do.
instead he just maxed out this panel, and it just wasn't.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just he ran a new circuit for every panel, which was cool, but at the same time it's just like, well, son of a gun, man. Like that's not it's not necessarily the best way to do it. So I mean, the ideal thing I want to do is really take from my friends who grow cannabis and have like, dehumidifier, maybe even filter the water, and so it's really as self-containing as it can be.
Mhm.
So there's some things that I just need to figure out, but I mean, there's ways to do it. There's some people, some hobbyists that have set up these. Basically each rack kind of is its own little self-containing. It's automated and everything. Um, so I want to get to that point. There's definitely still. It's going to cost a lot of money.
Yep.
And honestly, like everything that's come my way, like this pandemic, and it didn't help that I ended up with that physical control, and I still have to serve some time in jail for like a 3-day.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I wrecked my truck. I thought I told you that in the last show. We didn't cover
Oh, maybe
that,
a
huh?
little, but you didn't.
Yeah, I might have been drugged.
Oh, yeah. You did say that. I didn't know you did some
But
time.
I don't
Did
know.
some hard time.
Yeah, no. So I'm gonna have to go, and I only got physical control, but I don't have any vehicle right now, and there's just so much stuff to have to pay for, and then
Yeah, that shit's
just the
expensive.
business has been really inconsistent until like it's just like whenever I think it's good, like something's happened with like either training Tim or the humidity kills most of my crops or just whatever. So it's been like it's just been one of those fucking things, man. And like so whenever I feel like I'm getting on the other side of things, like just more bullshit comes my way.
Yeah, I know what you mean in a way. Not
Yeah.
yeah. I've been through that. I'm not there now. That's why.
No, but I mean, we started this show because I asked you about getting some trays, and you're like, "You just buy mine. I think I'm done
Oh
with
yeah,
microgreens."
because I was selling barrels. I was selling a shitload of
Yeah.
barrels at that point, and you were like, you want to buy trays, and you were like, how you doing with microgreens? I was just fucking buy all my trays. I'm done. I'm done with this shit.
Like,
Because I was like just working constantly and not making any money. And it's like, and that's something in the reality I think people need to understand about microgreens. It's like you could grow in your house probably to a certain point, and then you got to move somewhere else probably or do something, right?
yeah, I had to move. I moved somewhere
Yeah.
else because at this point, I mean, it's already a 712 square foot house. I don't think the basement's included in that, but the basement's pretty much all production. There's not really living space down there.
Yeah.
And, and I made it work with 2 grown men for way longer that was with a complete different personality who, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to, get into it too much, but like it didn't end up working out. And so now, I'm renting this other place. I haven't, I'd like to cash flow it some way or how, but every time when I go to think about it, it's like, oh, I gotta do this or I gotta do that or I gotta train,
Yeah.
the guy that I just had wash trays and help me while I was harvesting. Now he's planting and
Yeah.
harvesting. So it's like, I'm doing less work on some parts, but then it's like other parts there's still a lot of heavy lifting that needs done. There's still a lot of planning and design work that needs done, and that falls on me. So
Yeah.
so we're getting there. But John, I want to dominate this
That's
conversation.
fine. I don't know. I for some reason my app over here decided to start live streaming, and I don't know if it actually was, so I had to hit stop and start. So I'm gonna have two sections, which is gonna be fucking irritating in post. Anyway, um, I didn't want to have a post. That's why it's gonna be irritating. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it. There's always something, like I don't know. I've been living in this world where I'm trying to cram everything in because we have a new baby, and it's our first, and we're in our early 40s, and we're running this business, and obviously we just dealt with all the COVID shutdowns and everything, and my parents are in their late 70s, early 80s. I think my mom is in her late 70s. I think my dad's 80. I'm not 100% sure, and they live 6 hours away, and I just feel obligated to bring my kid to them every like 6 weeks or so that I can go, look, he's different now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so it's cram the entire week of greens and farming into a smaller schedule, that needs to be 7 days, but it needs to be crammed down into 5. So it's a weird thing because, like, I just have my wife and I. So, like, I don't have someone that's going to be here when I'm out of town to, like, take something out of germination. So it's like that's
Yeah.
been our big challenge the last couple weeks. And like last week we were all prepared to do it, we're ready to go, I had all the crop timing right, whereas the week before we didn't, so we scrapped the plan and just didn't go. So last week we were all ready to go, and we woke up Sunday morning at like 8 a.m. and I looked at her and I was just like, I'm fucking exhausted, I can't do it. And she was like, me too. So we just didn't do it. I was like just beat. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is the reason. Like,
But your watering now is pretty automated.
yes, somewhat. Like, there's problems, but they're sporadic, and like the way I look at it is this. Like, so we have Wi-Fi smart power strips, okay, that do 5, all right, on each one. There's 10 outlets and 5 are smart, and 5 are always on. So when I build a rack, I have 5 flood tables per stack, okay, and we have 1 2 3 4, 5 of those. Wait, six stacks of 5. Think about it that way, okay. So I have
Yeah.
6 power strips, all right, and each one has 5 smart outlets, and each one of those racks has a 8-foot flood table that holds 8 trays, and that has a pump plugged into each one of those smart outlets and goes to that flood table into a reservoir. And we just kind of figure out how long it takes to fill, and we go into Smart Life and an app, and we do every other day, which doesn't work out because there's not an even number of fucking days in the week. And who thought that up? Anyway, so so we go, like Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So it goes 2 days in a row, Saturday, Sunday, which is annoying because the Smart Life app isn't sophisticated enough to go, differently, where it'll skip. Okay, so this week it won't do Sunday, and next week it will. So
Yeah.
so you got to do it that way. It also won't do anything less than a minute, so you got to kind of hone it down. You got to make some decisions, like, do I want this one to overwater or do I want this one to underwater? That kind of thing. So the way we did it was we kind of set it up that way with some of these mistakes that we understand are going to happen, but we reconciled it with the fact that we fuck up all the time if we do it manually. So, like, if I'm standing there with the app and just hitting on off on the pump and then getting distracted, which is I'm highly susceptible to, all of a sudden I'm overwatering a tray of basil or a watering table that's got 8 trays of basil, and basil's super susceptible to overwater, or it's affected by overwatering. So the mistakes that the automation makes are probably a little bit less than the mistakes we make, but it does make mistakes. So that's where we're at with that. So we just kind of accept the mistakes. So some things, sometimes we come back after 2 days and some stuff's dried out, and sometimes some stuff's overwatered, and we just kind of go, it is what it is. And we'll like, so if it's overwatered, we pull the plug on the flood table for a day or two, and we monitor it, and then, whatever. So we basically come here every day anyway, and I try not to come here on Sundays, is it, but a lot of times they still do, you know. That's just kind of my life. Whatever. So, speaking to the fantasizing of how to, you can grow microgreens in your bathroom and make $3,000 a week. Those fucking assholes. I come here every day and check plants and make sure shit watered correctly and move stuff around and plant things and tote bags of soil up and down the stairs and, you know what I mean? Do all that shit. So
Is your warehouse upstairs?
yeah, I'm on a second floor.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it sucks. So that actually is probably my biggest, second biggest problem with this lease space. My biggest problem with the lease space that I'm in is the inability to climate control it. It's very, very leaky because it's old, and I'm not going to spend the money to insulate it. So, that ship has sailed. We've been here though for 6 years, no, 5 years. So I should have done it 5 years ago, but I didn't. So whatever. Of course, I didn't know 5 years ago that it was so leaky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We spent a massive amount of money.
And is it one of those situations where, like, if it's leaky, like, you have to fix it? Like, is it one of those commercial?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've talked to them before about, like, hey, the rooftop heating / air conditioner, heat exchanger unit is from 1956. Maybe we should replace that. And they're like, well, you buy the unit, we'll pay for the labor. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, that's not happening. Are you insane? They're like, how about I buy the unit and pay a guy to put it in, and then when I leave, I take it with me and leave a hole in the top of the building? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think that's what scared me about commercial real estate for the longest time is, like, my buddy who owns a brewery and a restaurant, like, it's a standalone building, but he has to do, like, all the work to it. And
yeah, I ran restaurants for so long, I kind of knew I was getting into that. Like, with restaurants, it's crazy. Like with corporate restaurants, it's like, hey, the roof's leaking. Well, you're responsible for that. So it's nuts. So I I just put in space heaters. I just went, all right, I just won't use that piece of shit, and I turned it off at the panel, and I put 2 space heaters in. But now I have the LEDs, and they put off so much heat. I really don't need much heat in the winter. It's actually more of a fight in the summer to keep it cool. And even now at nighttime, it's like 60 something outside, and when all the lights come on at night, the AC comes on to try to cool it off. It's crazy. So I'm working on a situation where I'm going to have an exhaust fan that actually blows in at nighttime to try to blow the cooler nighttime air in instead of running an air conditioner to counteract the lights or the heat from the LEDs. And I have an actual exhaust fan on the ceiling that sucks hot air out that comes on a timer. It's just a massive struggle here because the other part of it is with a leased building is it's like you can't cut a hole through the wall and put some exhaust fan in. You know what I mean? So I have windows on the front, and I've covered the windows with like that real thick foam insulation, the 2-inch thick foam. I just like built a frame out of 2x3s and glued that fucker into the windows and opened up the windows, and now I cut holes through the insulation when I need to do stuff. So that's my only way to vent or have an inlet. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a challenge. You got to overcome a lot of weird shit, and then it's just not ideal. And then if I leased a bigger warehouse, like an actual warehouse with like a bay door or that kind of thing, like you would put a brewery in, my concern with that is you see the big ass like propane blower heaters in those buildings, right? Those are like super expensive to run. All the heat's concentrated in that one area. I'm sure those things aren't insulated for shit, and they're super expensive per square foot. And you're going to have the same problems. I can't cut holes, so I don't know, man. Like it's a tough racket. Like I do have a plan. We can get into that into another show, but
Yeah,
this wasn't even on our notes. This went off on a fucking tangent.
no. Yeah, I was about to say. So tell me about your sales.
So yeah, we were doing. Our goal has always been kind of 1,500 a week in greens, right? And I specify that because we also do egg sales and we have syrup and honey and mustards and resales that we sell for other farms. Um, so 1,500 a week in greens kind of hits our requirements for our bills on the farm and feeds the ducks and everything and pays for the room that you see behind me, sort of, and whatever, pays for seeds and soil and all that, insurance, cell phones, blah blah blah, and then it also kind of pays us, right? And then everything beyond that is extra, which is fantastic. Um, and then overall 2,000 a week in sales, like including like syrup and stuff. So we were like so close. We were doing like 1,100, 1,100, 1,200, in the last like 6 8 weeks, and then well actually 6 8 weeks ago, and then I started like a marketing effort probably. So right at obviously you couldn't like walk into a restaurant during COVID and walk into a kitchen and be like, hey man, I'm like a fucking walking germ and I'm here in your kitchen. Like, how you doing? You don't know me. Cough, cough. So like you couldn't do that. So marketing during COVID was kind of weird with restaurants, so we were not doing it. And just before COVID we were doing it. So we kind of put all that on hold. And then now that that's over, we were gonna go right back to marketing, but then turned out the wife was pregnant. So I didn't want to go and market and get new restaurants and then go, oh, and by the way, we're going to take 2 to 3 weeks off in June, you know?
Yeah.
So we put off marketing until after the baby came. So then once we did that, we took a couple weeks off for the baby, and then we got, crops going in and got built back up to production and got settled back in because obviously things are a little different. Then we just hit marketing hard, and I had marketed to like 20 new restaurants and I had gotten none. And I was like getting really fucking discouraged, frankly, because
Yeah.
our conversion was like 1 to 4 before, like 25%. So like I'd go to 4, I'd almost always get 1 of the 4. So I had been to 20 and I hadn't gotten any of them. And I was like, what is going on here? Is this a COVID thing? Is this just like, cause I've tapped out the market? Like what the fuck? So, and we mostly had covered just like the rest of New Hampshire and stuff, and like the northeast seacoast of Massachusetts, like with this marketing. So I just said, you know what, screw it, we're going to go into Boston. And I had some concerns because I know there's a company right in Boston. And I was like, there's no way we're going to get any of these restaurants because we're like right near them, like trying to get these guys. And there's no way we're going to walk into a restaurant and they haven't already been there. So, I went into this restaurant. Mexican restaurant, kind of whatever. I don't know, that kind of food. And
Fancy Mexican?
what's that?
It's like fancier Mexican restaurant.
I guess yeah, it's like a celebrity chef, I guess, concept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I'm terrible. He's not the chef there now. He started it. He's at
he just owns
he's at
it,
another
right?
concept now that I can't supply because it's too big, which is crazy. So like I had that opportunity. That was the weird part about it. So I go in and I talk to this chef. It's a Spanish dude, and he's like, "You got to go talk to the big guy," basically at this other concept. And I'm like, "All right." So I had plans to go to a different restaurant with my other set of samples. And he sends me up the road to this other place. So I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll take these other samples to that guy." And I show up, and he was cool, like super nice. Went in with my samples, and he shows me the stuff he's getting now. And he's getting like this fiend herbs blend, which I refuse to fucking say other than one time we're going to call it fine herbs going forward because I don't say croissant, I say fucking croissant. So
Yeah.
fine herbs are like tarragon, chervil, parsley, and something else, right? You can't really do micro tarragon.
So yeah, yeah. Like it's you can't even really grow
Yeah,
tarragon. Like,
so he wasn't really getting that. He was just calling it fine herbs. It looked like to me, it looked like amaranth, and it was leeks, and it was chervil, and maybe parsley, and maybe something else. But I was looking at the guy's blend, and I'm like, it's really nice. It's really short. It was literally like the leaf and like a quarter of an inch of stem, and I'm like, holy shit! Like this guy's like shaving the top of these greens, and these are long grows, okay? And he's selling them to this guy for like $3 an ounce. and the guy's going through like pounds, and I'm like, how the fuck does this guy even do this? Like, and he's buying. So I went to the guy's website. He's buying all his greens from Johnny's, which is like one of the most expensive seed suppliers. I'm like, holy shit, how is this guy even in business? So,
Does he get
I mean,
grants?
good for him. I don't know. He's in Rhode Island and he's getting it done, but I looked at it and I'm like, I can't supply this guy. He's got 2 locations. He's using like 12 pounds a week or something of this shit. And I'm like, there's no way I can do it. I don't have the capacity. And it's like, I don't even know how to make money on that. So I grew some test trays, but I was like, there's no way. So, because every one of those crops is pretty much, I mean, the amaranth's fast, but it's a pain in the ass. And like, but leeks,
I think we grew it. I have amaranth seed.
I
I think
fucking
we
hate
just
it. I won't grow it.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It dampens off. It's the worst. So chervil, parsley, and leeks though are like a 17-day grow. So it's kind of a longer crop, and it's like, oh my god. And then you're cutting it like this tall, so you're yielding like what, like 2 or 3 ounces to a tray. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine what you got to be able to do to get enough for this guy. And maybe it's a little shorter grow time because of that. Who knows? But anyway, so that didn't work out, but he did say like the other guy at the Spanish restaurant is on his own and he can make his own decisions. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna focus on that. So he was only getting pea tendrils and cilantro, so I went and just fucking hammered that the next week and I got it. So that is pea tendrils and cilantro like $500 a week. So fucking
Oh wow. So
awesome.
he's ordering a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. No, I had to do pricing though for him. So that was the thing. He's like, basically just pulled out the invoice for the produce company and said, "This is what I pay." And I went, "Okay, that's what I charge." You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? So,
So was it less than what you were
oh yeah,
charging
it's
normally?
like for the cilantro, it's like half what I charge. Like, so I was at the time, I actually just came down on my cilantro price because I was having a hard time producing until recently.
What if actually New York they dropped prices because I took so much of their money and then it fucked you over?
That'd be fucked up. I would come and burn your grow room to the ground. No, I'm saying- so
Because I charge like half of what because
at some
Premier
point they
Produce
can.
One is buying it
At some
and then they mark it
At
up.
some point they
So
can't,
it's
right? I mean,
yeah, I don't know because I don't think I remember like I took some aquaponic vertical growing companies lunch money like some joint out of Akron, right? And they're like, we don't understand how we could charge that little. It's like, because I don't have the
yeah.
overhead. Like, I
Well,
don't have a bunch of
and
employees.
honestly, like I have had that happen to me. Like, so,
Oh, I just recently had somebody come and they were selling shittier pea shoots than
yep,
mine. It's a restaurant that I've been with since the restaurant opened.
yep.
And they still want my cilantro, so I said, yeah, no problem. And then I gave him like a bunch of pea shoots for free
That's what I did.
because I was just like, look,
Yeah,
I saw if they're cheaper than me, I know that it's gonna be hard for them to stay in business.
yep,
I saw what they have. Their stuff looks like
yep,
shit,
yep.
and they were using my old containers, and they didn't even use like a paper towel or anything
Yep.
to protect the greens.
Dude.
So
This is like it's like the people that I had to compete with moved out there.
that's
It's like
funny.
fucking exact. Like,
Or it's like they bought the same
yeah,
course.
yeah, maybe. So like I had this shitty lettuce farm up north of me, and it's one of those things where it's like I had to start out from shit, and this is like a farm that grows lettuce, and they inherited all their land and stuff and whatever. They have zero overhead, and they show up, and I had been in communication with them at some point. And I said, look, I'll stay out of your area, whatever. If you ever want to resell some of my shit and vice versa, let me know. And then like 6 months later, they're in my biggest account, like poaching my shit, and I'm like, what the hell, So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, motherfucker, it's on. So I did what you did. They were still buying the specialty stuff for me, the stuff that like it looks like you're making a lot of money on it because it's high dollar, but you're actually not because it costs so much
No,
more
and,
to
and
grow.
actually, you try to save that stuff for people that get the stuff that you
Yeah,
actually
you're
make
actually
money
making
on.
your money on sunflowers and radish and peas and stuff.
Yeah, so you only
Yeah.
reserve the nice
Yep.
stuff for those
Yeah.
customers because it's like, well, I'm going to reward the people that get
Yeah.
other
So
stuff
they were
too.
buying like shiso and like basil off of me. And then they started buying sunflower and peas off these other assholes. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I just started showing up with peas, and I just was giving it to him.
Yeah.
It fucked him up. So um, eventually, I just like confronted the chef, and I was like, "Dude, you're fucking killing me. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Was there a problem with my product? Like, like why?"
And he just probably said, "No, it's
Yeah,
just cheaper. I'm
yeah.
sorry,
Well, he
man."
said no. His answer was this, and it blew my mind. He goes, "Well, I want to help them out, and I have to get a minimum order from them." And I'm like, "So let me get this straight. They need help, but then they're setting impossible fucking parameters, and they have a worse product that costs more. That
Yeah.
costs more money." I'm like, "What kind of fucking help do they actually need?" You
Whenever
know, like,
whenever a chef tells me I want to help as many farms as possible, I just say, "Well, I don't want to work with you," because it's
yeah,
like
it's nuts.
it doesn't help the farmers to
Yeah.
like have to compete with each other, and
Well,
like
I
it's not worth our time to just drop off like,
yeah,
$10 worth of
yeah.
stuff.
I bought a new gun 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
And I needed a small carry gun because apparently you never know when some jackass is going to shoot up a fucking supermarket in a small town. So I needed a smaller gun because I don't always carry. So I went to like 4 gun stores, and there's like a couple around here. And the first one was like, they're cool, they're nice, but they don't have a lot of stock. So there's that place, right? And they're a little pricey. Then I went to the second place, and they always have everything, and everything's super cheap, but the guy is just such a prick, you know?
Ah,
And I'm like, why, man? Like, what? And it's no reason. You just walk in, and he's closing in a half hour. And he's like, we're closing in a fucking half hour. And he's like, and that's exactly what he said. And I'm just like, yeah, I get it, man. I can read. It's on the door. Like, calm down. I'm here to look at some handguns, like, what the fuck? And then he doesn't want to show you anything. And I'm just like, I can see what I want. It's there, you
does
know?
he own the store?
Yeah, he's the owner. He's just a prick. And I'm like, okay. Like, and this is what I always do this when I'm buying a gun. I'll go around and I try to spread it around, right? Like you were just saying, I always want to spread it around, like almost like that chef. But then I always end up the last 3 times and it's always been a utility purchase. Like the last 2 are 22s for farm protection, and this last one was a small carry gun, right? But I start out at the gun store that I like, but never has any selection and is high price, but I like them, right? But they never have what I need. Then I go to the asshole who's super, super cheap and has everything, but he's such a prick I won't buy there. Then I end up at a store that like I've never been to, and I kind of scope it out, but it's like, like it's kind of hit or miss in there, whatever. And then I always end up at this one place where the guy's nice, and he always has like a moderate price. He gives you a cash discount, but it's still a moderate price, whatever. And they're prompt and they're like super helpful. And I just always end up buying there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I want to spread it around, but I still always end up at the best one.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
what
I
are we
think
doing here? Like, just that was that chef that I didn't understand what his logic was. Like, just I'm the best one. Like, I'm
yeah.
not being a fucking pompous asshole right now. I'm looking at the product and it sucks, and their weird parameters make their customer service shit. You know, and my stuff is like it's washed, it's in the right packaging, it's got the moisture pad. I do custom orders. You can order 2 fucking ounces from me. This guy wanted him to order like 6 packages minimum or something. You know what I mean? Like what the hell? And it's like I don't know. It doesn't make. It'd be like if he went straight to the asshole every time and asked for punishment. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's weird.
I never understood why farmers make crazy demands of
Yeah.
restaurants. And then when restaurants fall in line, it's like, yo, I'm trying to help you save on food costs and quality.
Yeah.
Like my shelf life's going to be superior, my quality's going to be superior. I'm cheaper than the distributors, and I'm consistent, just as consistent. I mean, I've had issues this year, but I'm just as consistent as the distributors. So what's the problem?
Yeah. And
So,
like I think the
uh,
lesson there is like if you're trying to start out or if you're trying to be successful at this, like the low hanging fruit is make your business the model that isn't what I described there, right? And what you just described.
yeah,
It's a shitty place and go in and talk to chefs or whatever your customer is, right? And figure out what they're lacking and design your business around what you hear the most that like their problem is, right?
yeah.
I think
I don't
yeah.
step on like, look, if you want to go to business, if you want to go to war with me in business, like I'm an asshole. Like
Yeah.
if you're like that, like I've tried to help a lot of small farmers and I said, look, I'll distribute for you and I'll just buy it from
Yeah.
you. And then they try to compete with me and then they
Yeah.
lose. So, Well, hey, how do we want to end this show? We don't actually have any outro
Yeah,
on the on the
we got
sheet, but we're
nothing.
at
We
an
got
hour.
nothing. I think that yeah. So we covered like a tenth of our list. That's all right.
I think I covered. I
Um,
actually covered
oh,
all of
did
my
you?
stuff.
Machine growing.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
you
covered all that.
covered. I think I dominated a little too
I didn't
much. So
talk
yeah, we're good on
about.
my stuff.
That's fine. We'll cover some of my shit next week. Oh yeah, I did talk about most of
Yeah,
this.
we didn't talk about your new account.
No, we did.
Potential new.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
cool,
that was the
cool.
big one that I can't supply. And then
Oh
the
shit.
quail thing.
Yeah, we didn't get
Uh,
into your quail
yeah, but that's whatever. Actually,
yeah,
that's probably best to put that off because I have some other parts of that I'm
updates.
experimenting with. Yeah, and I'm having supply chain issues, man. We kind of touched on that, but
Well, we should really get into the
that's a
trays and have
whole thing.
farmers,
Yeah, we could talk
and
about supply chain next week, maybe.
and that's the worst too. Like right now, like you're hawking these courses for people to make money, and it's like there's no place to get
Yeah,
trays. So now all these people that are buying
there are
trays,
no trays.
they're going to be in business for 2 months and probably throw their trays
Yeah,
away. So yeah, so this is it. If you're in Columbus, Ohio, and this is how I want to close out the show, or you're in Ohio in general,
Mhm.
and you have old microgreen supply that you purchased and you don't want to use it anymore, please contact me. It's capitalcitygardens@gmail.com,
yeah.
or you can message me through Twitter or Instagram, Cap City Greens or at Drew Sample. Reach out to me because I need some I need some
Trolls. You need
trolls.
some trolls.
I need some trolls. I need some trays with holes in them. Because Dowie from did you reach out to True Leaf
Oh
yet to see?
no! Oh, I forgot about that. What I do have
Uh,
is I have deep trays with holes.
Yeah,
That
you talked to me about that
yeah,
solution, which
I have
I'm not ready
no
to do yet.
shortage right now of deep, heavy duty trays with and without holes. But there is no such thing as shallow holes germination trays like you use for microgreens anywhere in the country right now, other than maybe a TO Plastics version of it, and they fucking suck. Like you don't want those. They're not compatible with the other brand that I sell. The
Yeah,
good one. They don't nest. And yeah, so I did have a sort. I don't know.
maybe for the next show.
I have some. I got to figure out what the hell happened. So I had some shallow no holes in a different supplier. Okay, that's way more expensive, which
Are
sucks.
those the ones I just bought?
I think so.
Okay,
Did I send you 2 shipments or one?
one shipment.
Okay, no. Or maybe I'll have to check. Were they okay? Whatever you got?
They were great.
Okay, because I sent them
Yeah.
to another person and they weren't compatible for some reason, and I had to get a hold of that supplier and go, were these the wrong brand or what? And it's like, this is the problem with reselling and drop shipping stuff. It's a fucking mess sometimes because you don't actually see the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then, like, when
yeah,
there's a supply issue or when there's a customer service issue, it's like you got to really try to figure it out because you want to provide a good product and good service, but like sometimes you can't because you don't see it, you know? So like I had a customer get a product that doesn't seem right and I saw a picture of it they sent me and I'm like, that doesn't look right to me. It looks like a TO Plastics. But I reached out to that supplier or that drop shipper that I use and they don't even have fucking TO Plastics and I'm like, this is weird. So I'm kind of in a weird spot with that because they have more, but I don't want to sell them if they're not right. You know what I mean? They're the only place in the country that has any shallow trays, though. So I could have a case sent to you, and you can check them out, maybe. But they might be
Um,
wrong. That's what I'm worried about.
for the bottoms.
Well, they're solids, yeah. So there's no holes,
Yeah,
but it's wicked easy
I
to
have
drill
plenty of
holes.
those. Yeah, I guess it
Yeah,
is.
I got a drill bit that I can show you that I get on Amazon. It's wicked. It's like 8 inches long, and you just fucking bam right through all of them. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, so, show me that.
Yeah,
And then
I keep
'cause
meaning to make a video of it, and I don't remember.
that's a great video. That would actually be a really
Me
helpful
drilling
video.
holes through trays. Great video. I have
Yeah, you know. Yeah. So okay. So what? Let's have a call to action. What do we want to have a call to action for
I think if
our
you
listeners?
if there's anything you want to hear us talk about, put it in the comments of my YouTube video, and I'll we'll try to get to some questions. And
And also for the algorithm, put 8-inch drill bit. just so we know that you listen to the whole thing.
Oh.
So if you listen to the whole thing, put 8-inch drill
That's
bit
smart.
in
I
the.
like that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I've been watching a lot of More Plates, More Dates. That dude really understands YouTube.
I don't know anything about this. So
Yeah, so for the algorithm, make sure you guys like and share the video too. So it's gonna be, I think you're gonna be the only one that does the video.
it's up to you. If you want to put it out, you can put it out. And I'm gonna try to
It
post
makes
it
more sense.
to Odyssey,
It makes
but I'm
more
not
sense
sure.
for you just to do it, man. Yeah, it just makes more sense for you to do
I know
it.
we talked about Odyssey, and I don't know, man. It's such a pain in my ass. Like they won't
Odyssey,
auto
shoot.
transfer my shit, and they need 720p, and I don't know, man. I always put everything up in high def, and then, but
Yeah.
since I'm gonna output this through my software, it probably only take me 5 minutes to put it out in 720. So maybe we'll do Odyssey and YouTube, and you're gonna put it out in Podcast 2.0 at some point somehow, or you already are,
I'm gonna just put it on the sample hour feed,
and that goes.
and then yeah, and it's already in the index, but I
Cool.
didn't have to do anything. Like Adam Curry and them already pulled it.
Awesome.
Shout out to Adam Curry, the Podfather.
The Podfather, man.
Podfather.
Nice. Just see,
Yeah, I'm trying to get my show on the No Agenda stream. Sir Bemrose is not. I don't know. I don't think he likes me. So I'm gonna make him listen to this one too, and he'll probably say, I don't like you. It's just whatever."
well, he won't like this part.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Well, we both
I mean,
listen to the goddamn show,
I know, and I'm a
and
knight.
we love it.
I'm a
Oh,
knight.
are you?
I'm a knight.
No shit.
Yeah.
How much does
I'm
that?
Sir Bubba
How much does that
Hotep.
actually cost?
It's $1,000.
Oh my god. I have
So
a
was
child.
using it- I was using it to. I mean, I made enough money
Yeah.
in like from promotions with the listeners.
What do you mean?
So because I was just doing it to advertise my farm and like, hey, if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area, like once I get my website going, I'll probably do it again.
Oh, so you used it. You
another donation.
advertised and then used the. Oh.
Yeah, and John Dvorak gave me and Adam gave me a great plug.
No shit.
It was awesome. Yeah, and my buddy Nathan Frazier wrote he wrote my note. So like for free.
Once
He
there's
does it.
once there's supply again, I have other items I'm gonna add to the online store.
Yeah.
And I have a nice new website name, agoristgreenhouse.com.
Agorist Greenhouse?
See, we all say it different. Anyway, so
Yeah.
so yeah, or you could get it at dowiefarm.com, but whatever. So, and I have actually other stuff. It's not just flats. I have a whole line of pots and shuttle trays and stuff for them from that same company that I'm going to sell next year. So,
yeah. So if you guys are in the New England market, definitely check out John's website. He has a way more functional website than mine. I got to redo the back end. So that's I already mentioned that earlier in the show. So go there, do that. Don't forget to put 8-inch drill bit in the comments on YouTube. And if you guys are listening to this on the sample hour, go ahead and check out the show notes. And if you want to give me some value for value, if you found this in value, don't be afraid to donate to me on my show. And and that's all I got, John.
yeah, man. I'll also be on Unloose the Goose tomorrow on September 29th, my first time. I'll be very excited about that. So check that out.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Is that Spearco show?
Yeah, it's Spearco and Nicole Sauce and shit, I can't remember the rest of the people's names now, and I know them, and I've just the worst memory ever.
It's all good. Make sure you plug our new show.
I will. It'll be exciting.
Cool.
Because I want to try to get this out tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, I'll do the same.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys.